There's a version of you, still alive, that's been quietly sabotaging every goal you've ever set. The one who quits when it's hard, who hides behind excuses, who whispers maybe later. And until you kill him, you'll keep living the same defeated story. Why? Because habits don't die. They must be destroyed. In a few moments, I'll show you how to bury that weak version forever and rise as the man who finishes what he starts. No more quitting. No more escape. You were not born to crawl. There is a version of you that still hesitates, still holds back when life calls. That version doesn't belong to the man you're becoming. It is a remnant of fear, a shadow of doubt, a ghost trained by failure. But you must understand this. You were never meant to crawl when your soul was designed to stand upright, face the storm, and walk through it. The reason most men fail isn't because they're weak in strength, it's because they surrender in mind. They quit too early. They walk away when the work feels heavy. And so they live their lives in half measures, half dreams, half efforts, half alive. You must kill that weak version of yourself that bows to discomfort, that whispers, "It's too much." You do this not by force, but by decision. Decide that from this day forward, you will not crawl again. You will not kneel to your excuses. Rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Picture yourself alone in a field, no one watching, no one pushing, only you. And before you stands a heavy stone, the weight of your calling. The weak version of you will walk past it, complain about its size, and keep wandering. But you, the real you grip it. You strain, you lift, you build muscle, resolve, and identity. Ask yourself now, how many moments have you let slip because you refused to lift? How many promises to yourself have you broken? What would your life look like if you simply did not quit? The man who changes his life is not the one who waits for strength. It is the one who moves forward, trembling if he must, but moving nonetheless. Distinctly as your shield. You don't lose the battle in the moment of attack, you lose it the day before, when you didn't prepare, when you chose comfort over structure, when you let your emotions vote on your actions. A weak version of you walks without discipline. But the stronger man, the real you, carries it like a shield. You don't rise strong by chance, you rise because you design a way of living that makes quitting impossible. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about power. Power over your body, your words, your days. It makes you reliable in a world of excuses. Most men only act when they feel inspired. That's why they rarely build anything of worth. But imagine a farmer who only sows when he feels ready. He'd go hungry. Now imagine a man who rises daily, sharpens his blade, tends his field, even in rain. That man eats while others wait. What rituals shape your day? Do you wake with purpose or drift with the wind? Do you study, plan, prepare, or are you always reacting? If you build a life of discipline, you won't need to summon strength in hard times. It will already be inside you. The weak version of you wants ease. The real you knows that ease is earned after discipline is mastered. Your word must be law. Weak men do not fall all at once. They collapse slowly, under the quiet weight of broken promises. Not promises made to others, but the ones made to themselves. They say they'll rise early, but hit snooze when no one's watching. They swear they'll begin tomorrow, but when tomorrow comes, they find another excuse to delay. And with every excuse, they erode the foundation of their own future. That is how a life of regret is built, not in massive failures, but in soft moments of self-betrayal. Every time you say, "I will," and don't, you whisper to your soul that your word is meaningless, that you are not to be trusted, not even by yourself. And when a man cannot trust himself, he loses the ability to lead, to grow, and to rise. But the man who speaks with intent and follows through as if his word is law becomes powerful. He doesn't treat his promises as suggestions. He treats them as contracts with his own future. Your word must become sacred. Every time you say you will do something, you write a silent agreement with the man you want to become. The weak version of you breaks that agreement every day. He's not evil, just soft, undisciplined, distracted. He wants ease over honor. But the strong version, the one you are building, keeps his word like it's a commandment. You do not become that man by waiting for grand moments. You become him by honoring even the smallest commitments. If you say you'll walk 10 steps, walk 11. If you say you'll read 1 chapter, read 2. It's not about doing more, it's about proving that your word holds weight. Let your life over-deliver. Let your habits echo with strength. Let your actions prove that what you say will happen. Now imagine a younger man watching you, maybe a son, maybe a mentee, maybe the child you once were, still looking for someone to follow. What are you teaching him? That breaking your word is normal? That quitting is acceptable? Or that discipline is built on self-trust? and greatness begins in silence with a promise kept. If your entire life was judged by the promises you made and kept, how would you measure up? Would you stand proud or shrink back in shame? A man of his word becomes a man of destiny, not because the world hands him power, but because he proves again and again that he can be counted on. Begin with the smallest words. Let your I will mean something again. Each time you follow through, you drive a nail into the coffin of that weak version who hesitates, delays, and breaks faith. Kill that quitter. And with every promise kept, become unbreakable. Comfort is the enemy. Nothing worthwhile has ever been born from comfort. No empire was built in a feather bed. No warrior was made in luxury, and no man, no real man, was ever forged by taking the easy road. The weak version of you seeks comfort like a dog chasing scraps, hoping for relief, begging for softness. But you must understand this deeply. Comfort will never make you strong. It makes you dull. It makes you forgettable. And no sharp blade was ever forged in warm water. Growth demands suffering. Evolution requires discomfort. If you wish to rise, you must step where fear lives. You must walk the road with thorns beneath your feet, wind in your face, and doubt in your ear. That is where the transformation happens. Not when you are safe, but when you are tested. Every time you avoid the harder path, every time you choose what's easy over what's necessary, you kill a piece of your own potential. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by hurting with purpose. The greatest minds in history, those who reshaped the world, were not shaped in comfort, they were shaped in fire. While others ran from storms, they stood still. While others hid from failure, they walked into it. They didn't gain strength from winning. They gained it from not breaking when everything around them told them to fold. That's where strength is found, not in comfort, but in the trial itself. Think about what you've been avoiding lately. That difficult conversation you keep postponing, the workout you skip, the challenge you label as too risky. Why are you running? Because it's uncomfortable? Because it stretches you? Because it makes you doubt yourself? Good. That's exactly where you should go. That's the fire that will sharpen you, if you let it. Now, picture yourself standing in front of a cold, dark river. The wind is sharp, the current unforgiving. The weak version of you turns around, walks away, tells himself it's not the right time. But the real you, the one you must become, he steps in, feet trembling, breath short, muscles tight. But with every freezing step, he awakens. His blood moves, his spirit roars, his eyes sharpen. That river does not weaken him. It resurrects him. Your destiny doesn't live in comfort. It lives on the other side of effort. Every single time you choose ease, you delay your crown. Every time you numb yourself with pleasure, you weaken your edge. And soon the world forgets you ever had one. So ask yourself the hard question. Are you ready to suffer for what you believe in, or will you keep chasing pleasure and calling it peace? Are you ready to sweat, to bleed, to fall and rise again because your mission is worth it? Or will you keep living for ease and dressing it up as joy? Comfort is not your ally. It is a prison made of softness and excuses. And every day you stay inside it, your greatness dies a little more. Kill that version of you that chooses comfort and step into the fire where real men are made. Failure is not fatal. A quitting is. The weak version of you whispers lies every time you stumble. It says, stop, you're not good enough. This is the end. But that voice is not truth. It's fear wearing the mask of logic. It is comfort pretending to protect you. Because in truth, failure is not the signal to stop. It is the signal to begin again. Wiser, sharper, stronger. Failure is your instructor, not your executioner. Only the man who quits loses. Everyone else grows. And the man who grows wins. You were not born to walk only smooth paths. You were not created to succeed on the first try. You were born to fall and rise again, until the world can no longer ignore your persistence. Think of a child learning to walk. He stumbles, he falls, he crashes into tables and topples over his own feet. But he does not say, maybe walking isn't for me. No, he gets up again. Because deep within him, before fear was ever taught, he knows that falling is part of rising. And so it is with your dreams. Failure only holds power over you when you allow it the final word. When you say, that's it, I'm done, you hand failure the pen and let it write your ending. But you were meant to edit that story, to rewrite it, to revise it through action, and to turn failure into a chapter, not a conclusion. Most men try once. They fall and they retreat, they go back to safety. They call themselves realistic and wear their regret like armor. But the ones who rise, the ones who endure the sting of falling and choose to stand up again, they inherit the crown of mastery. Think of a blacksmith at his forge. He shapes a blade from raw metal. He strikes, tempers, and cools it. But sometimes the blade breaks. Is that failure? Yes. But is it defeat? Only if he stops. The blacksmith does not walk away. He doesn't declare the sword unworthy. He tempers it again. He strikes again. He changes the angle, the fire, the pressure. He adapts. And that broken metal, reshaped by trial, becomes unbreakable. So it is with you. Ask yourself, what have you given up on too soon? Was it a goal you once chased with fire? A habit you swore to master? A dream you abandoned at the first setback? What if you had stayed one day longer? What if your next attempt was the one that turned the tide? How many victories are buried in your past, not because they failed to happen, but because you failed to stay? The weak version of you fears looking foolish. He imagines the laughter, the judgment, the silent shame of failing again. But the strong version of you sees every stumble as a step forward. He does not fall back. He falls forward. He does not hide his scars. He wears them as proof that he fought, endured, and never gave up. His scars do not speak of defeat, they speak of courage. You are allowed to fail. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to fall face first into the dirt. But you are not allowed to quit, not if you truly want it, not if you believe in your future, not if there is even a spark of purpose left in your chest. So kill that quitter. Kill the version of you that retreats at the first blow. Stand up, wipe the blood from your chin, and try again. Because every time you rise, you get closer. And one day, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, the world will see what you've become. Fall, rise, repeat, until you're unshakable. You don't need motivation. You need a decision. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to carry your boat to shore. It might come, and it might not. And if it doesn't, if the breeze never shows, you'll float endlessly, watching the coastline but never reaching it. The weak version of you waits like this. He tells himself he'll move when he feels ready, when the stars align, when the fire inside magically lights. But real strength doesn't wait, it acts. The stronger version of you, the one who's silent, disciplined, and determined, knows that movement must come before feeling. Action first, emotion later. This is the trap. You believe something outside of you will give you permission to begin. You believe a spark must arrive before you can build the flame. But in truth, the spark is in your action. And if you never strike, you never light the fire. The man who waits for the perfect moment, the right mood, or the ideal energy becomes a relic, forgotten by time, buried by excuses. But the man who decides, who truly decides, he creates his moment. He doesn't need lightning to strike, he becomes the lightning. A real decision is not made with fanfare, it is not loud, it is not surrounded by cheering crowds or dramatic music. It is quiet, it is cold. It happens in a room with no one watching. What makes a decision powerful is not how deeply you feel it, it is how relentlessly you act on it, day after day, with no applause, no reward, just execution. That's what separates men who rise from those who rot in the prison of procrastination and moves regardless. The other waits forever. What if your life transformed the moment you stopped needing motivation and started honoring your word? What if instead of relying on emotion, you chose integrity? Picture yourself waking up early, not because you're energized, but because you said you would. Picture yourself training, not because you're excited, but because you made a promise. Picture progress not as something granted by mood, but driven by honor. That's the version of you that builds legacies. The man who doesn't ask, do I feel like it today, but says, I do it, because it's who I am. That is power. That is freedom. That is the end of weakness and the beginning of domination. Now ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Some external sign? Some surge of inspiration? A moment that feels easy and effortless? Or will you finally become the force that moves itself? Every day you hesitate, the old you tightens his grip. Every excuse feeds him. Every delay sharpens his claws. But the moment you decide, the moment you cut off the need for motivation, you write a new chapter. You rip the script from his hands, and you begin to live with purpose, not permission. Burn this truth into your mind. Motivation fades. It vanishes in rain, in fatigue, in disappointment, but decisions remain. They are the bricks that build the fortress of your future. When motivation runs dry, decision keeps marching. When feelings collapse, resolve stands. Stop being a slave to moods. Stop waiting for the wind. Grab the oar. Cut through the water. Move because you command yourself. That's how you rise. Not by waiting, but by willing. Not by emotion, but by execution. Kill the weak version of you who needs to feel ready and become the master who moves anyway. Your future is watching. There is a version of you 5 years from now, waiting, watching, living in the house you are building with your actions today. He sees every morning you hit snooze, every excuse you allow, every promise you break, every time you choose distraction over discipline. And that man, your future self, is either proud of you or he's ashamed. There is no neutral. There is no pause. You are shaping him with every single choice, whether you realize it or not. But the weak version of you doesn't care. He only lives for the day. He wants comfort now, ease now. He says, I'll figure it out later, as if time is an infinite river that bends to his laziness. He forgets that every action is a seed, and one day every seed will grow. Whether it's a seed of strength or weakness, that's entirely up to you. The man of discipline, the man of clarity, he understands the weight of his choices. He doesn't move carelessly. He plants each habit, each routine, each word with intention, because he knows the harvest is coming. He lives for that moment when the future version of himself can look back and say, thank you, not for being perfect, but for being committed. So ask yourself, what kind of man are you becoming? Strip away the talk, the goals, the grand ideas. Look only at your actions. What do they say? Are you becoming sharper, stronger, or are you becoming softer, slower, and filled with silent regret? Now picture this. You walk into a room. It's quiet. In it, you meet your future self. One version stands tall, his shoulders firm, eyes clear. He worked through doubt. He chose growth over comfort. He showed up when it was hard. And now he owns his life. The other version, he slouched, eyes dull, his face is a map of what ifs and I wish I had. You don't need to ask which path he chose. It's written all over him. Which man do you want to become? Because here's the truth most ignore. Your future self isn't a mystery. He's a mirror built by your daily behavior. Every workout you skip, every lie you tell yourself that you'll start tomorrow, it all counts. You cannot cheat your future. You cannot hide from it. It remembers everything. Even the smallest decisions are bricks in the foundation of who you are becoming. Wake up early and you train your future to be alert. Speak with honesty and you give him character. Choose discipline over distraction and you give him strength. It's not about giant leaps. It's about the quiet, repeated choices that echo forward in time. So the next time you want to quit, want to delay, want to indulge, pause. Look ahead. See that version of you 5 years from now. Hear his voice. Is he saying, thank you for not giving up? Or is he whispering, why didn't you try harder? You are always becoming someone. That's the inescapable truth. Every second, you are sculpting a man, a king or a coward, a leader or a shadow. You can't stand still. The only question is, who are you choosing to become? Kill the version of you who forgets the future. Bury him in your discipline and build a life the future you will rise to salute. Respect your own effort. The weak version of you is impatient. He looks for validation in applause, reward, and recognition. If the world doesn't notice, he believes the work didn't count. He assumes that if the results don't show instantly, the effort was wasted. But that mindset is poison. It turns discipline into discouragement. It turns noble work into self-doubt. And it kills the very thing that makes a man strong, his belief in the value of his own effort. A man of strength, however, does not beg for eyes to witness his grind. He doesn't check the scoreboard after every rep. He doesn't perform for cheers. He works for something deeper, something quieter, something sacred. He understands that real progress is often invisible, that true transformation happens long before the world applauds, and sometimes even if it never does. You must learn to value the hidden things, the silent repetitions, the early mornings when the world sleeps, the late nights when you finish your tasks in exhausted silence, the moments you choose effort even when no one is watching, because all mastery begins in the shadows. The strongest roots grow underground. The most powerful structures are anchored by foundations the eye never sees, and the greatest men were built long before anyone knew their names. What would your life look like if you clapped for yourself after every honest day's work? What if you gave yourself permission to feel proud, not when others approved, but when you knew you had given everything? Imagine ending your day looking in the mirror and saying, that mattered even if no one else noticed. That is self-respect. That is where real confidence is born, not from applause, but from earned action. Most people quit not because they are lazy, but because they believe their labor is meaningless. They work hard and the world stays silent. They sacrifice comfort and there's no gold medal at the finish line. So they assume it wasn't worth it. But what if they were wrong? What if every single act of effort, every rep, every step, every page, every hard decision was building something bigger than they could currently see? What if the reward just hadn't arrived yet? Ask yourself, how many things have you walked away from simply because they didn't feel rewarding at the time? How many dreams did you abandon because they weren't immediately profitable? How many habits did you break because the progress was invisible? The truth is, reward often shows up late. Mastery arrives in whispers, and greatness usually enters through the back door. But respect can be earned today, not from others, from yourself. You earn it with discipline, with consistency, with choosing effort over ease, especially when no one else sees. Every time you show up, every time you push forward, every time you decide, I will do this anyway, you become a man who respects himself. And a man who respects his effort never quits on himself. This is how you build unshakable self-worth, not through fame, not through money, not through likes or praise, but through silent, steady, earned action. Let the world ignore you. Let them sleep on your name. You keep building, you keep grinding, because you know that the invisible work is the real work, that the things no one else sees are the things that define who you are becoming. So if no one claps for you, clap for yourself. If no one sees your sacrifice, see it yourself. And when the weak version of you starts whispering that it's not worth it, that your labor is lost, silence him with action. Prove to yourself that your discipline is not a performance, it's a promise. To your future, to your purpose, to the kind of man you are committed to becoming. Kill that version of you who disrespects effort. Bury him beneath 1,000 acts of unseen excellence and rise. Quiet, powerful, unstoppable. You're not tired. You're uninspired. Fatigue lies, it dresses itself in truth, but more often than not, it's deception. It tells you you're too tired to go on, when really, you're just too disconnected to care. Your body may be fed, hydrated, even well rested, but your spirit is starving. And the weak version of you takes that dullness, that lack of spark, and uses it as permission to stop. He doesn't investigate. He doesn't dig deeper. He just gives in and calls it exhaustion. But you must learn to look deeper. Fatigue is not always physical. Often, it's emotional, spiritual, existential. It's the dull ache of a man who has forgotten why he started. You don't reignite your energy by lying down. You reignite it by remembering your purpose. That's what gives breath to the lungs, fire to the heart, precision to the mind. When you know why you are doing something, energy finds you. Focus finds you. You don't collapse, you rise. You don't avoid the hard things, you pursue them. Because they matter. Ask yourself, what have you lost your fire for? Is it your dream, your discipline, your craft, your promise to yourself? And what is the story you now tell when you skip, delay, quit? Is it really that you're tired, or is it that your purpose has faded from view? Picture a man digging for treasure. Every day he swings his pick. The sun burns overhead. His muscles ache. Days pass. Nothing comes. And then one day, after another long shift, he sighs, I'm tired, and sets the pick down. He turns his back and walks away. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't know, is that he was just one swing away from striking gold. That's what quitting steals from you. Not just the effort you wasted, but the reward that was inches from your grasp. So often, what we call burnout is actually neglect. A dream untended, a fire ignored, a mission that once mattered, slowly buried beneath routine, distractions, and self-doubt. You stop watering it. You stop feeding it. And when it dies, you say, I guess I'm tired. But deep down, it wasn't exhaustion. It was a soul crying for meaning. The next time you feel tired, don't just collapse into comfort. Ask yourself, is this weariness or wasted inspiration? Is this my body breaking down or my will checking out because I've forgotten what I'm fighting for? If your goal still burns inside you, even faintly, that is fuel. That is enough. Stoke it, feed it, fan the flame. Purpose will lift you in ways that rest never can. Boredom and burnout wear the same mask. They make everything feel heavy, slow, joyless. But boredom comes when your soul knows you were made for more, and yet you settle for less. It's not that you've done too much, it's that you've done too little of what matters. That's why everything feels so hard. The weight you carry isn't from overwork, it's from working without connection. So reconnect. Sit with your dream. Speak with your future. Remember the man you said you'd become. Let him speak to you. Let his voice remind you that your fatigue isn't final. It's just fog. Walk through it. On the other side, there is fire again. You don't need more sleep. You don't need another break. You need a reason. You need a cause that wakes you up before the alarm. A mission that makes you forget what time it is. A vision that sharpens your steps. Give yourself one. Don't trust fatigue until you've tested it. Push once more, try again, and then ask, was I tired or just disconnected from my purpose? That question could change your life. Kill the version of you that surrenders at the first sign of heaviness. Bury him under your why. And rise, not with ease, but with intention. Not because you feel like it, but because you remember who you are and who you must become. Excuses are the language of failure. The weak version of you is fluent in one language: excuses. Too tired, too late, too busy, too hard. His sentences always begin with "I can't" and end with "maybe tomorrow." Excuses are his comfort blanket, wrapped tightly around a life of untapped potential. He doesn't challenge them, he believes them. And every time he speaks one aloud, he feeds a silent enemy that grows stronger with each utterance: self-deception. But you weren't born with excuses. No child starts life saying, "It's too hard." They try, they fall, they cry, and they try again. You learned excuses from fear, from failure, from watching others give up. But what is learned can be unlearned. And it must be, because every excuse you entertain robs you of your strength. Every time you let yourself off the hook, a piece of your power quietly slips away. Keep that pattern long enough, and one day you forget you ever had any. You begin to believe the lie that you're not capable, that success is for others, that your dreams are unreasonable. But these are not truths. These are just well-practiced scripts handed down by the weaker version of you, the part that wants comfort over greatness, safety over success, survival over growth. The strongest men you admire, they aren't without flaws. They've stumbled, failed, and fallen like everyone else. But what sets them apart is not perfection, it's ownership. They do not explain away their setbacks. They examine them. They ask, "What can I learn?" instead of "Whose fault is this?" They choose responsibility over rescue, growth over excuse. Ask yourself this: how many of your excuses are actually true? Are you really too tired or just unmotivated? Are you really too busy or just unwilling to prioritize? Is it truly too hard or just unfamiliar and therefore uncomfortable? Now imagine standing in a room full of champions, men who have bled for their goals, suffered for their vision, endured ridicule, and kept going. And now it's your turn to speak. You clear your throat and say, "I didn't follow through because I was tired." How would it sound in that room? Would you feel proud? Or would your own words shame you? This is the test that changes everything. Would your excuse hold up in front of the man you want to become? If not, don't speak it. Don't even think it. Replace it. The man who transforms his life kills the language of limitation. He swaps it for words of power. Simple, direct, unstoppable. I will. I must. I begin now. Excuses are comfort's vocabulary, but purpose has its own dialect, one made of discipline, sacrifice, clarity, and fire. Every time you let an excuse slide, you strengthen the chains that hold you back. But every time you catch one, challenge it, and crush it, you snap a link in that chain. One broken link at a time, you reclaim your strength. The next time you hear the words forming, "I don't feel like it," or "It's too late now," pause, just for a second. Hear it, catch it, and choose something better. Say, "I'll start anyway." Say one more step. Say, "Now." Not because you feel like it, not because it's easy, but because you're done letting weak words define your destiny. Understand this clearly. You don't need more chances. You don't need more time, better conditions, or external validation. What you need is fewer excuses. One less excuse today is one more door open tomorrow. One more act of courage. One more drop of momentum. One more chance to rise when the old you would have backed down. You are not held back by circumstance. You're held back by the story you tell about your circumstance. And you are the author. If the narrative sounds weak, rewrite it. Don't wait for a new year, a new week, a new version of you to start. You don't become stronger by waiting. You become stronger by refusing to wait. Right here, right now, you can kill that voice that always has a reason to stop and start speaking with the voice of power, the voice of action, the voice of now. So let today be the day you stop negotiating with weakness. Let this be the chapter where your excuses die and your power returns. Speak not like a victim, speak like a man forging his way through fire, carrying the hammer of his will. There is no more room for the language of limitation. There is only this: I will, I must, I begin now. No more reasons, no more delays, fewer excuses, greater results. The world owes you nothing. Build anyway. There's a weak part of you, a small bitter voice that keeps whispering, I deserve more support, more recognition, more help, more applause. It believes the world owes you something for your effort. It waits for a reward to appear, for someone to step in and lift the weight, for the universe to acknowledge your struggle and hand you a smoother path. But here is the truth. The world owes you nothing, not a single helping hand, not even an explanation. And that is not a tragedy. That's a gift, if you're willing to see it. Because the moment you stop expecting something from others is the moment you start demanding more from yourself. That's where your power begins. It begins when you drop the script of the victim and pick up the hammer of the builder. No man ever rose by waiting for rescue. Every man who built a legacy did so by taking what little he had and multiplying it. He didn't complain about the lack of fairness. He didn't ask why others had more. He didn't sit still waiting to be chosen. He chose himself, and he got to work. The weak version of you complains that it's not fair, that other people had a head start, that no one appreciates what you've been through. But fairness is not the fuel of greatness. Fire is. Fire that says, even if no one notices, I will still rise. Fire that burns in silence, without applause, without permission. Ask yourself right now, what are you waiting on? A better situation? A new opportunity? A lucky break? Someone to recognize your worth and open a door for you? And the harder question, what if they never do? What if no one ever hands you the key? Would you stop? Would you sit in bitterness? Or would you stand up and build your own door? Imagine a man in the wilderness. He holds a dull blade, and no one is coming to help him sharpen it. No mentors, no praise, no shortcuts, just him, the stone, and the time it takes. Does he sit down and cry? No. He sharpens the blade anyway, with sweat, with scars, with silence. That man is you. You don't need approval. You don't need someone to carry you. You need will. Unbreakable, unstoppable will. Kill that part of you that feels entitled. Tear it out like a weed. It grows quietly, but poisons deeply. Every moment you think, I should have more, you surrender your strength. Replace that voice with gratitude. Gratitude for the chance to earn your place, for the fact that nothing is guaranteed, because that means everything is possible. The world may never give you what you think you deserve, but it will always respond to what you create. That's the code, that's the law. If you build something powerful, something real, the world will take notice. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the way you expect. But real work echoes. Real work leaves a mark. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to arrive with the perfect plan, the easy path, the praise you think you've earned. And that, my friend, is your greatest advantage. Because if no one is coming, then you are free. Free to build without waiting. Free to grow without asking. Free to rise without permission. This is your turning point. Stop waiting. Start building. Start showing up like a man who knows that nothing is promised, but everything can be earned. Let others wait for favors. You forge forward. Let others ask for help. You become help. Let others dream about being chosen. You choose yourself again and again and again. Kill that weak version of you who speaks the language of entitlement. Bury him beneath the weight of your work. Replace him with discipline, fire, and focus, and rise, not because the world gave you something, but because you gave yourself no other option but to win. Small wins make giants. You don't become unstoppable by doing one grand thing. That's a fantasy, a trap. The world loves stories of sudden transformation. A man goes from failure to glory in a single step. But real life doesn't work that way. Real strength isn't built in a day of fire. It's built in 1,000 quiet days. You become unstoppable, not through one massive action, but by showing up day after day. When it's boring, when it's hard, when it feels like nothing's changing. The weak version of you craves drama. He's addicted to intensity. He wants overnight success, giant leaps, perfect conditions. But greatness isn't made that way. It isn't an explosion, it's a construction project, brick by brick. Small wins stacked patiently until they become a fortress. And each day you delay the next brick because it doesn't feel significant, you delay your destiny. A giant is not born, he is built, inch by inch, stone by stone. He is forged in the mundane, not the miraculous. You want to kill the quitter inside you? Start by making small promises to yourself and keeping them. You said you'd wake up at 5? Do it. You said you'd read a chapter? Finish it. You said you'd go for a walk, write a page, do one more rep, follow through. These aren't small things, they are sacred. Every time you honor your word, you lay a stone in the structure of your identity. You're not just completing tasks, you're proving to yourself that you are who you say you are. The problem isn't that your goals are too big. The problem is that you keep chasing big goals while ignoring the small ones that actually build you. You dream of writing the book, launching the business, transforming your body, but you won't do the 10 minutes of focused work today. You won't get to bed on time. You skip the basics, then wonder why the mountain won't move. But mountains don't move, you do. Progress is not a sprint, it's a grind. A faithful, sometimes thankless repetition of effort when no one claps and nothing seems different. That's what makes you strong, that's what makes you real. And that's what the weak version of you doesn't understand. Because he lives for the feeling, not the result. He wants instant rewards, not inner growth. He quits when it's quiet. He quits when it's slow. He quits when there's no spotlight. Imagine building a cathedral, 1 stone per day. After a week, it's invisible. After a month, it's discouraging. But after a year, sacred. And the man who laid each stone with care, he knows the worth of every inch. He knows what he built. And more importantly, who he became in the building of it. You are building something too. Every time you rise when it's easier to rest, you're stacking your strength. Every time you resist distraction and stick to your process, you're laying a stone. Every time you finish what you start, you're writing a story the future you will stand inside with pride. Do you want confidence? Keep your word. Do you want power? Show up daily. Do you want to silence the voice that says you're not enough? Beat it with proof. 1 honest win at a time. Every small victory rewires your brain. It teaches you that you are not a slave to emotion, that your feelings don't dictate your future. It teaches you that discipline is possible and repetition is the gateway to greatness. That belief, brick by brick, becomes unshakable strength. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain today. You don't even need to see the summit. All you need is the next step. Take it, do it well, then do it again. That's the way. That's always been the way. Giants are not made by force. They are made by faithful repetition. So the next time you feel like giving up because the reward hasn't come or the progress seems invisible, remember this: 1 more rep matters. 1 more brick counts. 1 more day of discipline will echo far louder than 100 days of ambition without action. Kill that weak version of you who's obsessed with leaps and allergic to consistency. Starve him. Bury him beneath your quiet victories and rise, not with noise, but with the steady strength of a man who builds his greatness daily. Train your mind like a soldier. Most men drift through life with minds as wild as the wind, untrained, undisciplined, fragile. Their thoughts chase anything loud. Their focus breaks at the slightest pressure. And when life hits hard, they panic. They weren't prepared. Their minds weren't ready. And in battle, whether it's a crisis, a challenge, or a decision, they fall apart. But not you, because if you truly want to kill the weak version of yourself, you must train your mind like a soldier trains for war, with rigor, with precision, with relentless commitment. No weapon is more powerful than a mind under control. Not brute strength, not talent, not charm or luck or wealth. A mind that has been trained to think clearly, act calmly, and focus deliberately becomes unstoppable. It turns storms into strategy. It turns fear into fuel, and it turns confusion into clarity. The weak version of you doesn't understand this. He lets distractions decide his direction. He wakes up and immediately gives his attention to whatever screams the loudest. A message, a problem, a fear. He believes that every thought must be true simply because he had it. He never questions his mind. He follows it. And that is the fastest way to destruction, because the mind left untrained will believe anything. It will absorb every criticism, replay every failure, and bend under every doubt. Unless you take control, the strong version of you does something different. He doesn't just hear his thoughts, he tests them. He looks at fear and says, "Is this real or just imagine?" He hears doubt and responds, "Prove it." He sees distraction and says, "Not now." He doesn't let weakness become identity. He doesn't accept noise as truth. He doesn't surrender his attention to whatever pops up. He challenges every thought until only the strong ones remain. So ask yourself, what's been running your mind lately? Has it been fear, insecurity, jealousy, the past, the approval of others? If so, then it's time for war. Because your mind is not neutral. It's a battlefield. And on this battlefield, if you're not training, you're retreating. Start here. Picture your mind as a fortress. Every day, enemies try to enter. Some wear the face of doubt. Others disguise themselves as comparison, laziness, or self-pity. And unless you're guarding the gates, they will break in. Discipline is the guard. Repetition is the reinforcement. And truth is the weapon. You must defend the space between your ears like your life depends on it, because it does. Train daily. Don't just hope for focus, build it. Set time to think, time to read, time to reflect. Create stillness on purpose. Eliminate the noise that doesn't serve your mission. Stop giving your attention away to things that subtract your strength. Guard your inputs, because what you let in becomes what you think about, and what you think about becomes what you believe. Choose powerful words. Speak truth over your life, even when you feel weak, especially when you feel weak. Say, I am focused. Say, I am building. Say, I will not break. Speak only what builds, not what breaks, because your words become blueprints, and your mind builds whatever you say most often. You don't have to fix everything overnight, but you must begin. You don't change your life by waiting for perfect peace. You change it by training for battle so that when the storm comes, you're already ready. Here's what you need to remember. You cannot become who you're meant to be while still thinking like who you used to be. Old thoughts will not build a new life. If you want transformation, it starts with mental discipline. That means cutting off the excuses. That means questioning every thought that tells you to quit. That means choosing stillness when the world is loud and strength when your mind is soft. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. Even the strongest minds are attacked. But the difference is they know how to respond. When fear knocks, they don't collapse. When failure speaks, they don't bow. They stand. They refocus. They remember what matters and why they began. So train, not once a year, not just when it's easy. Train every day. Meditate, reflect, journal, speak. Sharpen your thoughts like blades. Build a mind so clear and so focused that it becomes your strongest ally. Because the man who commands his mind commands his life. He doesn't chase clarity, he creates it. He doesn't wait for motivation, he generates it. He doesn't live in reaction, he leads from intention. Kill that weak version of you who lets his mind wander like a child with no guide. Replace him with a warrior, a builder, a man of mental discipline. That's who wins. That's who rises. That's who becomes unstoppable. Pain is not your enemy. Pain terrifies the weak version of you. He flinches at discomfort. He sees struggle and thinks it's a sign to turn around. He believes pain is punishment, a cruel and unjust signal that he's on the wrong path. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is not a curse. Pain is a teacher. It is a mentor, a sculptor, a sacred fire. It does not destroy, it refines. You cannot grow in safety. You cannot become who you're meant to be by tiptoeing through life, avoiding everything sharp, heavy, or hot. You grow when you are pressed, when you are stretched, when you are broken open, not broken apart. That pain you've been trying to escape, that's the gateway to greatness. Every man who rose from nothing met pain and shook its hand. The weak part of you, he panics when pain shows up. He retreats into comfort. He convinces you that it's too much, that it's unfair, that it's not worth it. He tells you that if something hurts, it must be wrong. But that is a lie. Soft, seductive lie. Pain isn't wrong, it's real. It's the most honest feedback life can give you. It tells you where the weakness is, where the work is, where the next layer of your strength can be built. Think about the last thing you quit. That project, that discipline, that promise. Did you quit because it was impossible or because it hurt? Did you walk away because you lacked ability or because you lacked the endurance to push through discomfort? Most men never find out what they're capable of, not because they hit their limit, but because they hit their pain threshold and backed down. They never broke, they just bent and ran. But now picture this, a blacksmith shaping a blade, fire, pressure, repetition. Again and again the hammer falls, the steel bends, groans, resists, and slowly it becomes something sharp, something deadly, something useful. That's what makes the blade. Not luck, not ease, not gentle polishing. Fire and force. That's what makes you too. So why would you run from what strengthens you? Pain is not the problem. Avoiding it is. Pain is the signal, the compass. It says, here's the weakness. Here's where you're soft. Here's where you need to grow. And if you can stay in the heat, If you can endure, you come out forged, hardened, not bitter but better, not fragile but focused. But here's the test. Are you running from pain, or are you learning from it? Are you shrinking away, blaming the fire, or are you standing in it long enough to understand it? The man who wins, truly wins, doesn't avoid pain. He transforms it. He doesn't fear the fall. He fears wasting the lesson. He doesn't cry, "Why me?" when things hurt. He asks, "What is this here to teach me?" Every scar, every stumble, every sleepless night becomes his material. And from that material, he builds the next version of himself. You've been taught to chase ease, to believe comfort is the sign of success. But comfort never built a warrior. Pain did. Adversity did. Rejection did. And if you hide from pain, you are hiding from your own potential. You are delaying your growth. You are weakening your spirit by starving it of resistance. So welcome the fire. Stand in it. Let it show you what needs to be burned away. Your laziness, your excuses, your softness, all of it. Burn it down. What survives that flame is real. What survives is what is ready. You were built for this. Built to endure, yes, but more than that, built to rise. Not just to suffer and survive, but to transcend. Pain doesn't just make you tough, it makes you wise. It makes you present. It makes you aware. You stop living in delusion. You stop pretending to be strong. You become strong because you've been tested. There's a reason why men who've been through the fire walk differently, speak differently, move differently. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. They've seen what most run from. And they didn't break, they didn't quit, they stayed. And they changed. So here's your call. When pain shows up next time, don't run, don't reach for distraction, don't dull it with excuses or lies. Look it in the eye. Ask it what it's here for. Let it teach you, let it train you, let it carve away what doesn't belong in your future. The weak version of you, he can't handle this. He craves relief. But you're done living beneath your power. You're done quitting when it hurts. You're ready to be forged. Welcome the fire, because you were built to survive it. More than that, you were built to rise from it. You must become your own hero. No one is coming to save you. Let that idea die and bury it so deep that it never rises again. There is no cavalry, no miracle, no secret guardian on the horizon. The world owes you nothing, and the sooner you accept that, the stronger you become. There is no safety net outside of the one you build. There is no hero arriving to solve your problems. The only hero that exists, the only one who can rescue you, is you. The weak version of you doesn't want to hear this. He clings to the fantasy that someone, anyone, will step in and take over, that someone will come along and give him permission, show him the way, open the door, carry the burden, silence the fear. That version of you dreams of rescue, but dreams aren't plans, and rescue isn't coming. The strong version of you doesn't wait, he acts. He looks around at the ruins, the weight, the mess, and he says, "This is mine to handle." He becomes the rescuer, the builder, the leader, the answer he once prayed for. Look at your life right now. What parts of it feel broken, unfinished, stuck? What pieces are you hoping someone will come along and fix? Your career, your body, your discipline, your sense of purpose, your finances? Now I ask the hardest question. What if no one ever does? What if this is it? Just you and the mountain in front of you. Would you keep waiting, or would you ride? Imagine this. You're stranded on an island. No ships, no help, no radio, just you, sand, trees, and the long, heavy silence of being completely on your own. Do you sit on the shore hoping someone will see you? Do you pray the tide brings you a miracle, or do you build? A shelter, a signal, a plan, a path. Because if you don't build, you die. That island is your life. No one is coming. You must build. And something incredible happens when you stop waiting and start working. When you stop wishing and start building. You change. Not instantly, but day by day, piece by piece. You become stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. You become faster, not in speed, but in decision. You become wiser, because the world no longer feels like something happening to you. It becomes something you are shaping. As you build, the victim inside you begins to die. The voice that said, "Why me?" begins to fade. The one that said, "This isn't fair," begins to fall silent, and something new is born. The victor, the man who doesn't wait, the man who doesn't wish, the man who acts, who endures, who overcomes. You begin to trust yourself. You no longer look outside for strength. you become the source. You no longer wait for instructions. You create your own blueprint, and from that blueprint, a new life begins to rise. One stone, one decision, one act of courage at a time. Ask yourself right now, are you waiting for someone to notice you, to validate you, to tell you you're good enough, strong enough, ready? Or are you willing, finally, to carry your own weight? You must be willing. Because when you become your own hero, you never need rescuing again. Heroes aren't born through applause. They're not defined by costume or title. They are forged in silence, built in the dark, molded through resistance. They are men who looked around and realized no one was coming and decided they would go instead. Let the weak part of you fade. That version who needed someone to tell him what to do, that version who waited for signs, for green lights, for comfort. Kill that part, burn him down, and from his ashes watch who rises. It's not easy. Nothing about this path is gentle. You'll feel alone, you'll feel tired, you'll question yourself, but that's part of the fire. That's part of the shaping. And every step you take, every wall you break, every burden you carry, you build something the world can never take away. Self-reliance. You no longer live at the mercy of others, not their opinion, not their permission, not their help. You become the help. You become the power. You stop waiting for someone to change your life and start becoming the kind of man who changes his own. There is no greater freedom than that. So kill that weak version of you who sits and waits. Silence the part of you still hoping someone else will take responsibility. Let him die quietly. And then rise. Pick up your tools, your vision, your grit, and build. You don't need saving. You need to begin. Do it even when no one claps. The weak version of you needs eyes on him to act. He thrives on approval, moves for applause, and waits to be validated before taking a single step forward. He only runs hard if someone's watching the race, only shows discipline when there's a crowd to admire it. But that version of you will never build anything that lasts, because greatness is never built in the spotlight. It is built in silence, in shadows, in solitude. Real progress isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It happens when you wake up early and no one sees it. When you keep a promise and no one thanks you. When you choose discipline over ease and there's no praise waiting at the end. That's where the strong version of you is forged, not on stage, but in the dark. You must learn to do your work without needing a witness. The world may never clap, they may never notice. That cannot matter, because the most important battles are always fought in private. The habits you keep when no one's watching, those are the bricks that build the foundation of the man you become. If you compromise in secret, you crumble in public. But if you conquer yourself in private, you carry that strength into every part of your life. Ask yourself honestly, do you only give your best when someone else might see it? Do you only stick to your word when someone might call you out for breaking it? That's not strength. That's performance. That's the weak man hiding behind attention, hoping for praise to give him fuel. But applause is a poor power source. It fades. It's fickle. And if you let it drive you, you give the world the power not just to lift you, but to break you. Now imagine this. A man in the middle of a vast forest. No stage, no audience, no followers, just trees. And yet he builds a ship, massive, steady, beam by beam, day by day. No one sees him, no one thanks him, no one even knows what he's doing, but he builds anyway. Because he knows something others don't. One day, that ship will carry him somewhere great. That man doesn't wait for applause. He works with conviction, with vision, with silence. And that must be you. Because the moment you stop needing the world to cheer for you, you take your power back. The man who only moves when validated is easily stopped when criticized. But the man who builds from within, who acts from purpose, who moves in silence with fire, nothing can stop him. He's already decided. Greatness demands that kind of internal drive. Not temporary inspiration from others, but internal commitment to who you're becoming. You must build your habits, your character, your craft, not to impress, but to improve. Not to perform, but to transform. There is freedom in quiet work. Peace in private progress. When you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, you finally start to rise. Slowly, sharply, authentically. Kill that version of yourself that performs. Kill the part that asks, who's watching, before he starts. Bury him under 1,000 small acts of private integrity. Replace him with the man who builds, because building is what he does. Because discipline is who he is. Because he knows where he's going, even if no one else does. And the irony? In time, the applause may come, the world may notice, the stage may appear, But by then, you won't need it. You won't depend on it, because you'll already be complete, already forged, already proud of who you are, not because of what others say, but because of what you did when no one said anything. That is power. That is purpose. That is how legacy is built. So let others chase attention. Let them live for likes and followers and validation. You build in the forest. You lay beam after beam in silence. And one day, your ship will touch the water, and the world will wonder how it came to be. They won't understand what you gave, what you sacrificed, the cold mornings, the lonely nights, the effort done without reward. They'll just see the result. But you'll know. And that's all that will matter. Because by then, the man you've become will no longer need to be clapped for. He'll be the man worth clapping for. Finish what you start. Starting is easy. Anyone can start. In fact, most people do. They get excited, inspired, motivated by the rush of something new. Starting feels like momentum. It gives the illusion of progress. It fills the air with hope and possibility. But the truth is, starting is nothing without finishing. And the weak version of you, he lives only in beginnings. He jumps from one project to another, one goal to the next, one habit, one dream, one spark. Always chasing the next thing that gives him a rush, but he never stays long enough to build a fire. He starts the workout plan, but stops after a few days. He starts reading the book, but leaves it on the shelf before chapter 3. He starts waking up early, journaling, practicing discipline, but only when it feels good. When it gets hard, when the emotion fades, he fades with it. He's addicted to the feeling of starting, but allergic to the pain of continuing. But make no mistake, starting doesn't build men. Finishing does. Finishing is where character is carved. It's where grit is proven. It's where the voice in your head that says, it's too hard, gets confronted by the version of you that says, we don't stop. That's the battleground where real strength is born. Not in excitement, but in endurance. Not in speed, but in persistence. Anyone can run fast at the beginning. Few can keep running when it hurts. Few can crawl through the middle, where there's no reward, no recognition, just raw work. That's where most people quit. That's where most lives get abandoned. Now think about it. What have you walked away from? What did you start and not finish? A project, a business idea, a physical transformation, a habit that was supposed to redefine your identity? Be honest. Because each time you abandon something that mattered to you, you're not just leaving behind an incomplete task, you're reinforcing a dangerous identity. I don't finish. You're training your mind to expect collapse, to expect quitting, to seek escape when it should be building endurance. And over time, that identity sinks in. You begin to doubt your own promises. You start new things with less conviction, and you carry the silent burden of unfinished rubble. Imagine a builder who lays the first few bricks of a house and then walks away, again and again. He pours effort into blueprints, lays down the first layer. Then something comes up, he moves on. He finds another plot, another vision, another start, but never a finish. What's left behind? Scattered bricks, broken foundations, half-formed dreams, and nothing that can shelter him, nothing that lasts. That's what your life becomes if you don't finish. But the opposite is just as powerful. When you do finish, when you fight through boredom, pain, setbacks, and doubt, you shift something inside you. It's more than checking off a task. You become someone else. You become the man who follows through. The man who says, I will, and does. The man whose word holds weight, even when no one else sees it. That shift is not emotional, it's spiritual, mental, foundational. It's the root of self-trust, the cornerstone of confidence. Because when you finish even one meaningful thing, you prove to yourself that your discipline is stronger than your mood, that your mission matters more than your comfort, and that power compounds. It spills over into everything else. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, acting bolder, because deep down you know, I don't quit. I finish. Ask yourself this. What would your life look like if you simply finished what you started? Not perfectly, not quickly, just consistently, brick by brick, page by page, day by day, one habit at a time. Would your body look different? Would your bank account, your career, your relationships, your inner peace? You don't need more goals. You need completion. You need to look back at something you built and say, I stay. Let it be your new mission. I finish. Whether it takes days or years, I finish. Whether anyone notices or not, I finish. Whether it's exciting or exhausting, I finish, not because it's glamorous, not because it's easy, but because that's who I am. Make finishing your identity, because finishing is rare. Most people quit. Most people justify their failure and move on. But finishing, it builds legacy. It builds power. It builds men. When you finish what you start, your name begins to mean something. People start to listen, not because you're loud, but because your actions speak. That's how influence is earned. That's how trust is won. That's how you go from ordinary to exceptional. And don't misunderstand, finishing doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean the journey was smooth or the outcome was flawless. It means you stayed the course, you carried the weight, you paid the price, and you crossed the line even if you were crawling. So go back to that thing you started, pick it up, dust it off, and decide that this time it gets done. Kill that weak version of you who lives for beginnings and dies in the middle. Let him fade with every step you take toward the finish line. And let the man who finishes rise, not because it's easy, not because it's quick, but because that's who you've chosen to become. Master the morning, control the day. The weak version of you stumbles into the morning like a drunk into a storm, disoriented, distracted, and already behind. He sleeps too late and thinks too little. He doesn't rise with purpose. He drags himself out of bed like it's a punishment. His first thoughts are not direction, but reaction, to noise, to stress, to whatever demands his attention. And so the pattern begins. Chaotic morning, chaotic mind. Unfocused start, unfocused day. It's not just poor time management, it's a slow death of power. But the man who masters the morning, he masters his life. Because the way you begin is the way you command. And a man who commands the start of his day becomes the man who commands his future. Picture this, a general preparing for war. Does he sleep through sunrise? No. He's up before his men, scanning the field, studying the terrain, reviewing the enemy's moves, setting the formation. He doesn't enter battle by accident. He prepares. That's you. The battlefield is your life. The war is against distraction, laziness, weakness, and doubt. And the morning is your strongest weapon. If you don't use it, you lose it. And if you lose your morning, you've already surrendered the first battle of the day. Ask yourself, what do you actually do with your first hour? Does it strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, fortify your spirit, or is it filled with meaningless habits that cost you more than you realize? Because if your first hour is soft, the rest of the day will follow its lead. You'll be scattered, slow, unfocused, led around by emotions, demands, and distractions. That isn't just wasted time. That's a weakened life. The morning sets the tone, and when you disrespect that hour, you're not just neglecting routine, you're sabotaging your potential. But when you own it, everything changes. When your morning becomes sacred, your power becomes real. Not someday, not in theory, now. A powerful morning doesn't begin with perfection, it begins with intentionality. You don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. or run a marathon, but you must rise with purpose. You must claim the first hour as your time to build the man you want to be. That hour is your forge. It's the chamber where you shape your thoughts, your body, your focus, and your spiritual state before the world can get its hands on you. Because if the world owns your morning, it will own your mind. But if you own your morning, nothing and no one can shake you. You're grounded. You're prepared. You've already won before others even begin. Here's the hard truth. The weak version of you will always have a reason to skip the morning. I didn't sleep well. I'm not a morning person. I'll start tomorrow. These are lies dressed as excuses. And every time you believe them, you reinforce that weakness. You keep feeding the part of you that fears effort. But the man you want to become, the man who builds legacy, strength, clarity, leadership, he doesn't ask how he feels in the morning. He moves, he acts, he shows up whether it's easy or not, because that's what structure does. It replaces feelings with principle, and that's what you need to grow. Make the morning sacred, make it structured. Not rigid, not punishing, but disciplined. Give yourself a pattern that serves you. Maybe it's movement, breath work, silence, reading, planning, reflection. But whatever it is, own it. Claim it. Make it non-negotiable, because the benefits aren't small. When you start the day strong, your brain works better, your decisions sharpen, your stress lowers, your self-respect grows. And most of all, you trust yourself. You begin the day knowing, I already kept a promise to myself, and that feeling becomes fuel. The morning is where you build momentum. It's where you create clarity before the chaos. It's where you become intentional before the noise of the world tells you who to be. You don't need a perfect life to have a powerful morning. You don't need silence, comfort, or time handed to you on a golden platter. You just need a decision. A choice to stop stumbling into your life and start steering it. Let the weak version of you die in the sheets. Let him sleep while you rise. Let him wait while you work. Because while others wake up looking for direction, you've already created yours. This is not about becoming a robot. It's not about hustle for the sake of hustle. It's about leadership. And the first person you must lead is yourself. From the second you open your eyes. Own your morning. Not once in a while, every day. The same way a warrior sharpens his blade, even when there's no enemy in sight, you sharpen your mind, your body, your habits, because you know the enemy always comes, and you will not meet him unprepared. The man who owns his morning is not thrown off by noise, by crisis, by temptation, because he's already grounded, already clear, already rooted in who he is. So kill that weak version of you who rises late, reacts first, and thinks later. Leave him in yesterday. And from tomorrow forward, rise with fire. Because once you own your morning, the rest of the day can't own you. And the man who controls his day, he controls his destiny. Do hard things on purpose. The weak version of you treats difficulty like it's a disease, something to avoid, to run from, to shield yourself against. He wakes up hoping the day will be easy, hoping the challenges are light, the discomfort's rare. When something hard appears, he interprets it as a sign to quit, as evidence that the path is wrong. To him, resistance is rejection. Pressure is punishment. Pain is something to escape, not embrace. And that mindset, soft, fragile, cowardly, will build a life that crumbles the first time reality applies heat. But the man you are becoming knows better. He doesn't fear pressure. He seeks it. He doesn't wait for the easy path. He walks into the fire. Because he knows that strength isn't found in comfort. It is built in adversity. He does hard things on purpose, not for applause, not for appearance, but because he understands something most men never learn. Pressure reveals power. You will never find your strength by avoiding the weight. You only find it by lifting it, again and again, until the muscles of your will, your mind, your spirit, bend that resistance to your will. There is no shortcut, no secret, no substitute. If you want to grow, you must strain. You must choose the uncomfortable path and stay on it. When your legs shake, when your breath shortens, when your mind screams for relief, that is where transformation lives. Not in the beginning, not in the hype, but in the middle of the suffering, when every part of you is tempted to quit and you refuse. When was the last time you did something hard just to prove you could, not because it was required, not because someone asked, but simply to confront the part of you that still doubts, still hides, still hesitates? That's the question most never ask, and that's why most never grow. They wait until life forces pain on them, then complain when it arrives. But the man who trains in difficulty walks into it on his own terms. He says, let it hurt now, so I'm ready when it hits later. He turns discomfort into discipline. Picture a warrior, one who never trains, never sweats, never bleeds in preparation. He stays comfortable, safe. He convinces himself that strength will find him when he needs it. But when the real battle comes, when the arrows fly and the enemy strikes, he is unprepared. He breaks under pressure. He dies with regret. Now imagine another warrior, one who wakes before dawn, who climbs hills carrying weight, who spars until he stumbles, who chooses struggle daily. When battle finds him, he doesn't flinch, because he's already been there. He's already bled, already conquered pain. And now he doesn't just survive. He wins. Which one are you preparing to be? Which future are you training for? Every hard thing you choose now makes you stronger for what life will throw later. The cold water, the long walk, the unreadable book, the difficult conversation, the brutal workout, they are all bricks in the fortress of your becoming. You can avoid them and stay soft, or you can face them and become solid. You get to decide. That's the brutal beauty of it. It's all a choice. And here's the deeper truth. Your greatest growth won't come from the things you enjoy. It won't come from the wins that come easy. It will come from the things you endure, from the seasons you didn't think you'd survive but did, from the moments you wanted to quit but didn't, from the discipline to push yourself one more step when nobody would blame you for stopping. That's where the real self-respect is forged, not in pleasure, but in pain with purpose. The world is not interested in whether or not you're comfortable. Life doesn't ask how you feel about pressure, but it will test you again and again. And if you've only trained in peace, you won't stand in the storm. That's why you must choose struggle before it chooses you. Lean into it now while the stakes are low, so when they rise, you rise higher. Let go of the illusion that difficulty is a threat. See it for what it really is, a mirror. One that reflects your current limits and invites you to push past them. One that shows you where you are weak, not to shame you, but to shape you. The weak part of you will beg for comfort. He'll tell you there's no point in suffering, that rest is safer, that pain is pointless. Starve him. Suffocate him with action. Let him die under the weight of the barbell, the pressure of the challenge, the repetition of the hard road. And in his place, allow the stronger man to emerge, the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't break, who fears nothing. That man exists within you already. He's just waiting for enough difficulty to pull him out. So choose it, embrace it, invite it in like a mentor. Because difficulty, when chosen, becomes the tool that refines you. It becomes the training ground where average dies and greatness is born. Do the hard thing, not for others, not for pride, but to become the man who no longer fears the storm because he trained inside it. Burying the old you for good. You can't carry the old version of yourself and expect to rise. That man, the quitter, the doubter, the excuse maker, he cannot come with you where you're going. You can't upgrade your life while dragging the version of you that was built for survival, not success. The one who hesitated instead of decided, who explained instead of executed, who postponed instead of prepared. The one who let fear speak louder than purpose. That man had his turn, and his time is over. You don't need to fix him. You don't need to reason with him. You don't need to sit him down and ask him to grow. You need to bury him. Not tuck him away, not keep him close in case things get hard, not whisper his excuses when no one's listening. Bury him. Lay him down, declare him dead, and walk forward. The idea of slow improvement is a trap. The idea that you can gradually patch up the broken parts of the old you while still trying to become someone greater, that idea will keep you stuck. You can't renovate a structure that was never meant to stand forever. You can't remodel a mindset that was designed for limitation and then expect it to house greatness. You must demolish. You must burn the bridge. Cut the cord. Break the habit. Kill the version of you who kept you tired, broke, ashamed, uncertain. Because here's the truth. That man made you small. He accepted less than you were capable of. He said maybe later when you needed to act now. He folded under pressure. He called temporary pain a permanent problem. And worst of all, he lied to you, told you that comfort was safety, that mediocrity was noble, that waiting for permission was wisdom. That man cannot come. So ask yourself honestly, why are you still dragging him around? Why are you feeding thoughts that no longer serve you? Why are you giving time, space, and energy to beliefs that belong to a man you've outgrown? Picture a man trying to climb a mountain with a corpse on his back. Every step is heavier. Every breath is harder. Every moment becomes more difficult. The mountain seems impossible, not because it is, but because of the weight he refuses to let go. He blames the climb, but the real burden is who he's bringing with him. Now picture him finally laying the body down. No tears, no apology, just the decision to let go. And in that moment, he flies, he rises, he moves with clarity, speed, power, because he chose to stop dragging the dead weight of who he used to be. That is what you must do. Write the death note for your old identity. Take a pen, take a journal, name him, describe him, list his traits, his habits, his fears, his lies. Then write, he is no longer me, and bury him. Not with ceremony, but with conviction. Because you are becoming someone new, someone disciplined, someone clear, someone who finishes what he starts, someone who trains, builds, commits, and endures. This version of you doesn't whine. He doesn't explain his shortcomings, he fixes them. He doesn't run from discomfort, he trains in it. He doesn't doubt every decision. He acts, adjusts, and acts again. This version of you walks into the world knowing that he is not owed anything, but that he can earn everything. He no longer waits to feel ready. He moves first, speaks truth, demands more from himself than anyone else could. This is the man who is building something real. But you cannot build if you keep turning around. You cannot climb if you're always looking back. The old you is not your companion, he is your anchor. And the deeper you dig into your potential, the harder that anchor pulls until you cut the chain. Let it go. The fears, the habits, the vices, the patterns, the story. That story you've been repeating to yourself. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I've never finished anything. Burn that script. Write a new one. One that starts with a funeral and ends with a resurrection. This is the shift most men never make. They try to level up while still holding hands with who they used to be. They try to win new battles while consulting the man who always surrendered. They try to build something legendary on a foundation of self-pity and delay. And then they wonder why it keeps collapsing. You can't build a future on a corpse, so bury him. Let the world miss that old version of you. Let them wonder what happened to the man who always played small. Let them be confused when you no longer laugh at the same jokes, no longer skip the gym, no longer waste time in conversations that subtract from your mission. Let them mourn him if they must. But you rise. You rise without apology, without hesitation, without dragging the old chapters into your new book. Because the man you are becoming needs all of you. Your focus, your energy, your precision, your fire. And that man, he is free. Free from the lies, free from the shame, free from the identity that once kept him quiet, average, and afraid. That man moves without baggage, without delay, without doubt. So here's your moment. Don't improve the old you. Don't negotiate with him. Don't take him along for one last ride. Walk him to the edge. Dig the grave, throw him in, and start fresh. Let your actions write the first chapter of the new you. Let your habits reinforce it. Let your words reflect it. Let your morning routine, your mindset, your decisions, your discipline prove it. That world's pretty famous too. So you don't need the world's approval. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need the courage to say that version of me is gone and I'm not going back. Because the world doesn't need the old you and you don't need him either. Bury him and walk forward, free. The strongest men obey themselves. There's a war inside you. Not a loud one with fists and fire, but a quiet one. The kind that happens in the stillness of morning, in the space between your intention and your action. It's the war between the part of you that wants to rise and the part of you that just wants to rest a little longer. The part that says, I will, and the part that replies, maybe tomorrow. The weak version of you obeys the voice that says, not today. He listens to fatigue like it's truth. He bows to cravings like they are kings. He hears the whisper of doubt, of ease, of comfort, and he follows like a servant. But you weren't born to serve that voice. You were born to rule over it. Discipline is not about living like a monk. It's not about denying yourself pleasure or walking through life like it's a punishment. It's about command. It's about knowing that no one, not your boss, not your parents, not the world, has the right to run your life unless you give them permission. And the moment you start obeying every little feeling, every sudden urge, you've handed over that permission. You've given up your throne. If you're tired of starting and stopping, tired of living beneath your own potential, it's not because you lack motivation. It's because you keep obeying the wrong voice, the voice of the quitter, the excuse maker, the child, the coward. That voice has lived inside you for too long. It has dressed itself in good reason. Just one day off, you're exhausted. You've earned a break, but you know what else you've earned? Respect, results. A life that reflects the fire in your gut. You don't kill the weak part of yourself with anger. You kill it with consistency. You kill it by no longer negotiating, no longer making space for later. You want to rise? Then learn to give yourself an order and follow it. You get up when you said you would. You train when it's time. You speak when you must. You rest only when your work is done. Not because someone else is watching, but because you're watching. The real man doesn't wait to be led. He leads himself, not with ego, but with clarity. Not with emotion, but with principle. He stands in front of the mirror and makes a vow. From this day forward, I will not break my word, not to others, not to himself. And that vow, that internal contract, is more powerful than any goal on paper. Because the man who keeps his word to himself becomes unshakable. His confidence isn't built on compliments, it's built on proof. If you've been feeling lost, it's likely because you've been following something weak, some temporary emotion, some small excuse. You don't need another plan. You don't need another dose of motivation. You need to stop lying to yourself. Stop postponing. Stop giving power to moods that pass like weather. When you obey yourself, everything changes. You move with a different kind of weight. You enter a room differently. You begin to trust yourself again. And when you trust yourself, when your own voice becomes law, you don't wait to feel ready. How many times have you disobeyed your own voice? Told yourself you'd do something, only to retreat when the moment came. You paid for that, in lost time, in lowered self-respect, in nights where you couldn't quite look yourself in the eye. But you don't have to keep paying. That cycle ends when you decide, deeply, finally, that your word matters. Picture the man who does not flinch, who lives by internal discipline, who works without applause and endures without complaint. Picture the strength of that, the gravity, the calm. That's the man you were born to become. But you'll only become him when you stop obeying weakness. You don't need a perfect schedule or some perfect morning. You need to act. You need to decide that the next time your body says stop, you will whisper back, go, and you'll move. You'll push, not because it's dramatic, but because it's yours to do. The man who lives by discipline is not rigid, he is free, because he is no longer pulled by everything around him. He is no longer waiting for the world to give him a sign. He has become the sign. And when that happens, when you no longer break your own commands, there is nothing left to fear, because the strongest men in history were not just warriors of the field. They were warriors of the self. They didn't ask for power, they became it, and so will you, if you obey yourself. Quit on quitting. There is a lie that has been whispered into your ears since you were young. It goes like this: if it gets too hard, you can always stop. And slowly, subtly, that whisper becomes a belief, then a habit, then a way of life. That lie is how the weak version of you was born, not in one dramatic failure, but in 1,000 quiet exits, 1,000 small retreats when things got inconvenient, painful, or unclear. But the real decision isn't just to keep going for one more day. The real decision is to burn the exit door entirely, to make quitting so unacceptable that it never even enters the conversation. Because when quitting is an option, it becomes a reflex. And once it becomes a reflex, it bleeds into everything. If you allow quitting in your work, you'll quit on your health. If you allow it in your discipline, you'll quit on your dreams. You'll start to quit not just on tasks, but on people, on yourself, on your identity. You'll say things like, it wasn't meant to be, or maybe it's not the right time. But what if it was meant to be, and you just didn't stay long enough to see it? You must make a different decision right now. Decide this: I do not quit. I adjust. I endure. I rise. That decision must be final. Not something you test, but something you live by. It must become part of your code, engraved deeper than any excuse. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if quitting was no longer available to you? What projects would you finish? What level of discipline would you reach? What man would you become if you simply refused to stop? Picture a man in a tunnel. He's been digging for hours, maybe days. The light is gone. His hands are blistered. He's tired, discouraged, and unsure how far he's come. He could turn back, most do, but something in him says, one more swing. And with that next hit, just one more, he breaks through. Daylight floods in. He collapses forward, not from defeat, but from triumph. And the only thing that got him there was that he quit on quitting. That must be you. You don't need more talent. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't even need to know how it will work out. You just need to refuse to stop. Refuse to walk away. Refuse to let quitting become part of your nature. Because here's the truth. Every great achievement was surrounded by moments that begged for surrender. Every leader you admire, every builder of empires, every warrior of purpose, they all stood where you're standing now, on the edge of comfort and collapse. But instead of stepping back, they planted their feet and moved forward. You think strength comes from always winning. It doesn't. It comes from staying in the game when everything in you screams to leave. From breathing through the pain, from crawling, if that's what it takes, but never breaking. If you build a life where quitting is acceptable, you'll always find a reason to retreat. But if you kill that door, if you shut it and seal it, you will discover something few men ever do: the strength to endure. And endurance, my friend, is the soil where all greatness grows. So now, make this vow, not a wish, not a maybe, a vow. I will never quit on myself again. I will not entertain escape. I will push. I will adjust. I will overcome. This vow won't be glamorous. No one may see it. But over time, it will show up in every corner of your life, in the way you speak, the way you train, the way you rise after failure. You'll look back one day and realize that it wasn't the moment of success that defined you. It was the moment of refusal. The moment you stood against the urge to run. The moment you quit on quitting. Let that be today. Let that be now. Because your life does depend on it. And you're not here to wonder. You're here to win. The weak version of you had his time, and he wasted it. Now it's your turn. Burn the excuses, break the cycle, bury the quitter. From this moment on, you don't pause, you don't retreat, you rise. Kill the weakness and watch the world make way for your strength.